Hey, everybody. All right, today I wanted to give you a quick mini lesson. Again, we're looking at the beginning, just the beginning, and we're looking at what to include in our beginning. Last time we did this, we looked at setting description. We looked at, okay, we can describe the setting not just as a place, but also like the culture and what it's like in the place that we're describing. So I showed you different things about how I described the culture on Mars in the settlement and got really specific about that. And we talked about the five senses. This time around, we're going to talk about characters. So, in the beginning of your story, you have to give your reader background on your characters. They have to care about them. If they don't care about your characters, then the story isn't going to have a big impact. So, you want them to get to know the characters because, as I think you know, if you get to know someone more and more, generally you begin to care about what happens to them and the ups and downs of their life, right? So you want to let your reader in on what your characters are like. So you can do this a bunch of different ways. Earlier in the year, we talked about the STEAL acronym, where you can show what your characters are like by their appearance, by their actions, by the way they relate to other people, by their relationships, by their dialogue, what they say. So there's lots of different ways you can do this. So I wanted to show you a few that I used in my beginning. So the first thing I do is I use dialogue. So what they say. So Evie, who's the main character, is teasing Oliver, and she's saying, "Doesn't it ever get old for you?" And he grins, and so they obviously have, a positive friendship. And so he comes over, and nope, never does. And he drawled in his slow Earth accent. So we find out from this dialogue that he's kind of from Earth, and she's obviously more of like a settler on Mars. And she's kind of teasing him about how he keeps staring at the sunset and like watching the two moons rise on Mars. And so she's giving him like a friendly hard time. And so we find out like about what their relationship is like, and then also that he is sort of more recently from Earth than her. So we hear a little bit more about this as we go down. So I'm right here. She says, "I looked fondly over at Oliver. He had come as a settler from Earth just over a year ago, and he adapted quickly. So I've learned two things. He's newly to Mars, and he's adapted quickly. So he's kind of a quick study on how things work. But he also, this is the third thing, he also like has a lot of wonder about the two moons and all the cool things that go with being a settler on Mars. And then we also learn about Evie, and we learn that she was actually born on Mars and she's never known anything else. So that's a lot of background in one paragraph, which is great. And then they have this next conversation, and she's saying, I'll buy you dehydrated ice cream packets. So they're kind of, again, they're just friendly. And then we learn a little bit about how when they're 13-year-olds, but they are guards on duty. So again, that's about their character. That's also about culture and setting, but that's also, we learn they're both 13 and that they do everything that adults do in the settlement. And then as we go a little bit farther down, they're having a conversation about how things are kind of weirdly boring on Mars because they thought it would be more exciting, or at least Oliver did. And so he says, again, we're learning about him and his personality through what he says. He says, "I don't know, it just feels pointless sometimes. Everything has been planned for up here. Nothing ever seems to go wrong. I've been here over a year, and weirdly more happens on my small town in Iowa than here." So that's kind of a setting thing, but it's also a character thing where he's kind of like, hey, I wanted a little bit of excitement. I thought it would be more exciting to be on Mars. And even though it's amazing visually, he kind of thought there'd be more adventure. Okay. So then we go down a little bit more. And then Evie is having a conversation with her parents. This is like a flashback. And she's having a conversation with them. And she says, "Well, I'm ready for my big batch of excitement. Thank you very much," she says with a snarky smile. So first of all, it's a little snarky, but like fun snarky with her parents. So they're teasing again. But mainly, we learn that she's kind of ready for more excitement. So she shares Oliver's view that, like, you know, she would be okay if things got a little bit more exciting on Mars. So that's all I'm going to show you for today. There are a lot of other ways you can do these things. But I showed you a couple different ways that you can introduce your characters and get people to really be interested in them. And you want to do that as much as possible in your beginning. Okay, bye.